So how do you lose a cabin? Well, the only way you're going to be able to answer this question is by watching Mercy Falls, a Tubi original, written and directed by Ryan Hendrick, who's done shorts as well as a couple Christmas movies. Check out his IMDb page for the full listing of his work, and also written by Melia Graska in her feature credit. I apologize if I mispronounced her name. And it centers around a few friends in Scotland that decide they're just going to go on a nice hike. And that's good. It's always nice to get fresh air. Times Square. It's always nice to be able to get fresh air and hang out with friends and everything and just see how far you can go, how you can push it to the limit. You can walk along the razor's edge. But this isn't just any old hike. Oh, no, 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 no. Lauren Lyle's Rana had a bit of a unfortunate end to the relationship with her father. We find out why a little bit later, even though she got along with him earlier in her life. But he left her a cabin, and this cabin is not just in the woods, but deep in the Scottish Highlands. And Rana, she kind of knows where it is, but she kind of doesn't. This trip wasn't really all that well planned, and they end up employing a woman named Carla, who knows the woods really, really well, and then they decide to set off on an adventure, and basically it's help me, Rana, help me find the cabin before something really bad happens. Help me, Rana, 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 in the deep highlands. So yeah, after a certain incident happens, basically it becomes massive horror, massive suspense, and everybody basically has to fight for their very lives. So this movie, having the Tubi original label had me worried, because if you're not familiar with Tubi, you can get a bunch of free shit on there because it's a free ad-based streaming service. And actually they have some rare gems. Our trip to Berrybrook in particular comes to mind. That was quite fun. Check that out. I enjoyed it. Watch it. Why not? And when I saw the description for this, I'm like, okay, this sounds typical. It doesn't sound all that bad. Let me give it a shot. And I'm going to say, as far as that premise and as far as the fact that this was, I don't want to even say micro budget. It was low budget, but it was, well shot and well formatted. I'm glad I gave this a chance, because this actually turned out to be pretty entertaining. It turned out to, have some good, atmospheric shots, beautiful scenery, and I have to give one shout. Carla, played by Nicolette McKeown. I hope I pronounced that right. My God, Nicolette, beautiful. God damn, she is beautiful. I mean, holy shit, she's captivating. When I checked out the cast and I was writing stuff down, I go, okay, yeah, that she's enough. And Lauren Lyle, playing Rana, she plays a good conflicted leading lady. And there's also Scott, played by James Watterson, and Layla Kirk playing Heather, the best friend of Rana. And there are a few other people in there. Andy's a particular character. There's Donnie. Not Donnybrook. No, it's not our trip to Donnybrook. It's such a Donnybrook out there. No, in all seriousness, there's a feeling of tension hanging over because something doesn't quite seem right about this particular hike, and then you find out why a little bit later. And sure, some of the stuff is, you've seen before. It's a bit cliched. I will say it is a bit overly long. I don't know if it needed to be 108 minutes. I think 90 would have been fine. Not that the movie's bad. For taking stuff that we may have seen before and putting a little bit of a twist on, and having a cast that certainly gave their best effort, put their best foot forward. This was fine. This was fine for what it is, and even at points, pretty good. It's just the length that kind of, I think, kills it a little bit, because there's some good pacing, then there are some parts where I think the movie has a couple issues. It does a nice job setting things up before things go really, really crazy. But nevertheless, while not a great movie, it's certainly a solid effort from Ryan Hendrick and the cast involved. And again, I must shout, Nicolette, goddamn. I mean, goddamn. We do get a little bit of setup with the various characters and everything, and then, there are certain telltale signs from, like the opening minutes where you're like, okay, you could have avoided doing that, or you should have avoided doing that, or maybe you should have done that instead and things wouldn't have turned out like this, like they did, and maybe you should have planned this trip better, and there are logic loopholes, but it ends up actually being pretty good overall. Again, a little bit long, but I look forward to seeing what else Ryan Hendrick can do. And Melia Graska, I'm not sure, how much of the writing credit they both share, but, they both did a good job there. And the cast, pretty good overall. I'm going to get into spoilers. It's on Tubi. You can check it out. The spoilers will not take very long because this movie is more about characters having to fight for their lives than anything else, especially once the twist gets revealed about halfway through, even though, in all honesty, you can kind of see the twist coming up a mile away. I'll give them credit, though. They do go one way, and then I was like, oh, okay, they're going here, because I thought we were going to go a bit supernatural. Maybe they do. You'll have to find out in the spoilers. Ha ha ha. Anyway, it's on Tubi if you want to check it out. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. Okay. So, in the beginning, we see a little girl watch her dad kill a horse that was very, very injured and wasn't going to survive. And then basically we have Rana, Heather, and we have a few people in the car, and they pass by a hitchhiker that they don't pick up. The hitchhiker is Carla. They don't know this later, and I noted Nicolette is gorgeous. There aren't a lot of likable characters in this because everybody kind of is full on dickish. I mean, Rana has her motivations, but there's quite a bit of cheating among people because jungle fever, oh. I did like the bunch of old Scottishmen singing and playing the various instruments. I don't know much about Scottish culture, so I'm sorry. That was cool. There was one point where we get a bit of a hint that Carla might be, have a particular set of skills. She punches out a drunk guy. That was cool. And then they go into the woods. And we get lengthy walking scenes, which makes sense. And beautiful scenery, by the way. I've never been to Scotland, but beautiful scenery. And Carla suddenly is leading the expedition because she knows these woods well. And And she suddenly disappears. And then she sneaks up behind him and said, how did you get behind us? I'm sneaky. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. And then they set up camp. Carla is clearly off her rocker. I mean, that's the one thing that this movie basically telegraphs. I mean, how does it telegraph it? Because you can kind of tell. I mean, you can just kind of tell. And then there are two guys, including Heather's boyfriend, that fight over Heather. I don't blame her. Layla Kirk is beautiful. And then suddenly we're at some weird dream sequence involving the military and people dying. And I believe that the Afghan woman that was in this particular military scene, I think was played by Layla Kirk. I'm not sure. She was covered in blood, so not necessarily certain. But then the story was told around the campfire, the siren of the loch. And women would lure men into the water, or statistically, some women, and then kill them. I thought we were going supernatural. No, it actually turns out that there was a news article that was being shared, and Carla saw it and threw it in the fire, but it didn't burn. What did this news article say? We'll find out here in a second. Rana keeps kind of panicking because she really wants to find this cabin. And then Andy gets in a fight with a guy over Heather, and he gets his leg impaled on some wood. And a pretty gruesome scene, actually. And then Carla says, oh, you're going to bleed out. Just slits his throat. So they're basically all complicit because Carla says, you could tell, but then you're going to go to jail, and I'm going to go to jail. And I don't want that. And I'm not crazy. Why would you think that? Technically, they could because there'd be no way to prove it, but nevertheless, they bury him, or rather put him in water and just let him float around Mercy Falls, which is a little fall area. And then the remaining people are panicked because of all this shit going on, because Carla clearly isn't right. It turns out this news article that Carla was trying to burn, she was a former British officer that went rogue, killed some people, and was in a psych ward and escaped. That's it. And from there, we just have a few scenes like Carla climbing up on a cliff to look for this cabin. Then everybody remaining runs. And then we find out a dream sequence, or another dream sequence after, one of the guys sacrifices himself because Carla cuts him to death. because they climb across this rock over this cliff or this ravine, which actually was a pretty good scene. And then we find out the thing about the horse. The dad killed the horse because the horse was trapped. He was trying to get it to come back up, but the horse was so weak, was so, just drained of energy, and was so injured that he had to kill it. It's unfortunate, but put it out of its misery. And then we find out that Rana hated her dad because of that, which I can understand as a kid, not liking a parent killing an animal. And then more people get killed. Basically, like, everybody just gets off. It was 4-on-1, then it was 3-on-1, now it's 2-on-1. They find the cabin, Scott and Rana, because Heather ends up getting hung up, going off to piss in the woods, and going apparently far enough that nobody could hear her scream. I know you need privacy, but goddamn, I mean, you're in a fight for your life. I think you can have a little less modesty. And they find a radio. Somehow there's enough gas in the generator where they're able to operate it for a bit. And then here's Carla. Here comes Carla. And they finally decide to band together. I mean, Rana and Scott, they decide to get some weapons, put them in the wood, or put them in this cave, but they're going to lure Carla in there, and then they're going to lure her into the cave. Well, then the two get together while Carla watches, voyeuristic and everything. And then from there, she kills Scott. We get Rana and Carla fighting in a cave. And then because there was some gas left, she sets her on fire. Creates some funny fire effects. I'm sorry, but it was kind of funny. And that's it. Also, the radio had said just before all this stuff went down that a rescue team was en route. I do have to say, though, that this movie, it could have used a little bit of trimming. It's not that there were a bunch of scenes that were overly long. I just saw certain things that could have been cut. It could have been a little more expedient, but it had a nice setup, and it was decent enough for what it was. And compared to other Tubi originals, certainly not that bad. So I'm going to give it a B. It was fine for what it was. And again, Nicolette, my God, please. I need to see more stuff that she's in because she's beautiful. Other actors, very good as well. Solid cast, solid effort. B. Agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Riplin. I'll see you soon.